Welcome back, YouTube fam. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe and like button. Please subscribe to our channel. We'll be talking about football. Every once in a while, we'll throw in a little bit of freestyle, maybe talk about something different. But today we'll be
College
talking
football,
about college
fantasy
football as
football.
well. Hopefully that comes back. Fantasy football. I mean, we have a family league going on, so it'd be pretty interesting if we bring on some of the people that are actually in our league, so you get
Yeah,
their advice on everything.
we'll cover
But
it all.
yeah, we'll cover it all. So just subscribe. If you have any suggestions, go ahead and hit it in the comment section, and we'll try to address it here on the show, or we'll even contact you personally. I don't know yet, but yeah. So today we're going to be kind of continuing what we did on the last episode. We covered the AFC East, our favorite draft choices from 2017, 18, and the 19 classes, respectively. Today we'll be tackling the AFC West, and that includes the Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Los Angeles Chargers. I actually had to write that down because I was kind of scared that I was going to mess it up and say Oakland and San Diego, respectively.
Yeah, you did good this time. Got it.
But yeah, before we get started, you were just mentioning that you had a couple of news items you'd like to cover.
Just a couple of news items to get through. We have some contract stuff. Dak Prescott finally signed his franchise tag. He'll be making just over $31 million this year. So I actually think that this might be a good move for the Cowboys by waiting this one out. A couple things to consider: the the salary cap might be going down next year, just because who knows if we'll have games. They're definitely going to have less amount of ticket sales. So everyone
Yeah.
is projecting that the cap will definitely go down next year. And that might mean some casualties for these guys that have big cap hits and things like that. But that's definitely one thing to consider. And yeah, Dak Prescott franchise tag. The other thing to consider is, he has a new coach this year. He's going to be learning a
Yeah.
new offense. He hasn't been willing to participate in the off-season stuff and practice with his team. So, that being a quarterback and being on the same page, as you can see, you got Jimmy G taking his guys out, working with them. Tom Brady working with his guys. Even Ben Roethlisberger has taken upon himself to work out for the first time during an off season with his wide receivers. And all that stuff's important. So I could see Dak not having as good as a year as he did this year, next year, with all these new changes that are happening. And, that might cost him a couple $1 million a year just in those little things.
I saw something at on Twitter. It said, "Would you pay Dak Prescott 4 years, 140 mil?" I'd
See,
say if you add another year, 5 years,
yeah,
140 mil. That
Yeah, that I would want the same amount, 35 million for 5 years. I would do, but I don't want to do it for 4 years. Give me those 5 years. I know he
yeah.
wants to hit the free agency market again and get another big payday, but he's trying to line that up exactly the when the NFL renegotiates their TV deals and stuff like that, because he's predicting another uptick in the salary cap. So some of these things are unpredictable. Some of them you can predict like that. But, yeah, I just want my quarterback on the team for 5 years. Come on, make the commitment.
Yeah, exactly. All
So,
right. Anything else?
the other money thing that I kind of want to cover, contract thing, is Jamal Adams. He wants a
Yeah.
new contract. He hasn't got a new contract, but he definitely wants one. He's having a little bit of trouble with the head coach, Adam Gase, there. And I think he's frustrated. He wants to be traded to a contending team. He's a big competitor. He put out his list of teams that he thinks should go after him, and he even said he might even work out a little bit of a deal with them if they made the move for him. And that list included the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Texans, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Niners, and the Seahawks. And just before today, I looked into a couple of these teams, and
He
next year
actually
the team
added he added the
Tampa
Tampa Bay
Bay.
Buccaneers
Yeah,
to
he
it.
added Tampa Bay. I did not look at that. I could probably pull it up right now. But yeah, I
Yeah.
looked at the cap space for all those teams, And the two that have the most cap space are the Seahawks and the Ravens. And I think that would be pretty scary if he was on either one of those teams. So they're
Yeah.
both 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 in 2021 in cap space. And Tampa Bay is below them. So yeah, it's still the Seahawks and the Ravens are the top two teams with the. And honestly, I don't want to see him go to either one of those teams just because that would make them definite contenders in my eyes, adding him to their defense.
Did you see that video of that somebody leaked out? I think it was, I mean, obviously it was a fan, but he's putting it on his Snapchat. He's recording Jamal Adams driving by, and he said, hey, they're going to come to the Cowboys. He goes, man, I'm trying to.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I
that
know
probably
you
wasn't too
personally would love
smart on his end, just
that.
with the Jets organization and fans. But, he's a Texas boy. He was probably in Texas. The Cowboys fans are out there, and, you got to know you're being recorded. I probably wouldn't have said that, but, it's Jamal. He's the president.
Yeah, I know we talked about it on our last episode. I know he was actually your favorite in 2017. Your favorite, not only your favorite safety, I'm pretty sure he was your favorite player.
Yeah.
And you were both really high on him. It's funny that he actually has my 49ers on the list as well as your Cowboys. So we'll definitely see. You know what I mean? Like I know our teams have been rivals, so I think whoever gets them, But I have a feeling that he may go to Philly if they can work out their negative $50 million that they have.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. But
it's funny. I don't see the Saints on his list, and the Saints are also the other team that are in the negative for 2021. So it's Eagles and the Saints are both over 35 million in the hole next year. So they're gonna have to make some moves.
I wonder if the Saints have Breeze's contract on there for next year because I mean it probably will count towards dead money, but I know that they're talking about this year. It's going to be his last year.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have Breeze's contract on there for this. I'm on over the cap. Yeah, they have him for 25 million next year. So even that, they're still going to have to make some moves to free up 10 more million. And then if they sign Jamal, that's going to be another 10 to 15 million. So they'll still have some moving around to do. But other than the contract stuff, I just wanted to touch on a couple legal things that popped across the wire this week, actually the last 2 weeks. So the first thing was Xavier Howard. He's not going to be suspended this year. He was kind of under fire for a domestic violence incident that happened earlier in the year. And, the NFL just doesn't play around with this stuff. So it officially got dismissed. The NFL came out and said, hey, we're not going to suspend you. It was dismissed in court. So looks like they'll be moving on from there. A couple other things with guys getting arrested. It looks like all 3 New York team first-round picks have been arrested this offseason. That goes for the Jets, Quinnen Williams. He got caught with a gun. And I forget where he's originally from, but he brought it across state lines. And New York just doesn't play around with gun laws, and they don't care if it's registered or you're a concealed carry owner in another state. They have their laws, and they will bite down on it. So he got charged with that. We got the Giants' DeAndre Baker, who was involved in that little gambling / robbery, gunpoint robbery thing that happened with one of his ex-teammates. So he got in trouble for that. And then lastly, the Bills, Ed Oliver, he came up with a DUI earlier in the season. So not a good look for those New York teams, but I think we went almost the longest it's been during the COVID stuff where an NFL player didn't get arrested. So it looks like they are back at full speed.
Oh, yeah. All right. It looks like Quinnen Williams got caught up in LaGuardia Airport. That's in New York. Yeah. But it says here that he's actually from Alabama.
Oh, yeah. So Alabama, they definitely have a gun concealed carry type stuff. But I know in New York, in order to get a concealed carry there, it's damn near impossible. You have to have some good reasons to do it. So yeah, good luck, Quentin.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to our topic. Like I said, our favorite draft choices from 2017, 18, and 19 draft classes for the AFC West, and we'll be starting off with the Denver Broncos. Uh, touch base quick on the 2017 class that they had. Wasn't a fan of Garrett Bowles, and he's kind of proved me right with a plethora of holding penalties. I don't know, maybe he needs to change the scenery to kind of shape himself up, but wasn't a
Yeah,
big fan of him.
yeah. Was what
Carlos,
round was he taken in? Was he a
he
first
was
rounder?
yeah, first rounder, pick
Oh yeah.
20, and I know that his 5th-year option was actually denied.
Okay. I
Carlos
have him right
Henderson,
here.
yeah,
I have him right here on mine. Is the number one, two, three? My number 5. What is that? Interior lineman,
yeah,
and
yeah, he's
I have him with a 3rd-round grade. So yeah, that was higher than I expected him to go, especially with guys like Ryan Ramczyk, Cam Robinson,
yeah.
Forrest Lamp, all ahead of him.
Yeah, I think Ramchak was actually my favorite, and I was surprised he
Yep,
went as late as
he's
he
number
did, and
1.
he's turned out to be a stud for the Saints.
Yep.
But Carlos Henderson, I liked him. The receiver had a lot to tech. I thought he was, a solid late rounder.
Mm-hmm.
2008 to see 2018 actually was where my favorite one picked. A quick touch base over the 2019. I like Noah Fant. I didn't think that he was gonna go this high. I thought he was gonna go round 1 for sure. But pick 20, tight end at Iowa.
Yep.
I like Dalton Reisner a lot, the tackle out of Kansas. I was actually really high on Drew Lock out of Missouri. I see a lot of his work with Jordan Palmer. I was actually a fan of that when I got to see like the backs, the behind the scenes type of workouts and how he was as a player and who he was. I actually liked him a lot. I like Draymond Jones a lot as well from the D tackle from Ohio State. But like I said, my favorite overall draft choice for them was Bradley Chubb in 2018, and I also liked Cortland Sutton who they picked in the 2nd round, as well as Royce Freeman. Royce Freeman from the running back from Oregon. His freshman year, they were calling him a young Frank Gore, and that's actually high praise, being how long Frank Gore's been in the league, and he actually may have a chance to play with his son. Who knows? But yeah, I liked Cortland Sutton as well. Good length, good production over that SMU. But yeah, like I said, Bradley Chubb, he was my favorite draft choice. The D end out of North Carolina State. This kid was a stud. He had 39 solo tackles, 33 assisted, 72 tackles in total. 23 of those for loss. He had 10 sacks. He had 2 pass deflections and 1 forced fumble.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this kid was a stud. He was my favorite overall, and yeah, I think he's doing a great pairing with Von Miller for sure. I know he got hurt recently. Hopefully this year he comes back to a little bit stronger and recovered, because we definitely do have a lot of time going on. So
Yeah.
he's actually the cousin of Nick Chubb. Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that.
Yeah, he's actually the cousin of Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
So is that is we're I know in the previous episodes we were talking about how we're a fan of the family bloodline, and his father Aaron was actually a late round draft pick for the New England Patriots. So
I do not think I have that written down, and that's usually one of the first things I look by. Nope, don't have it written down. But
yeah,
yeah, I had Chubb on my list. He was my kind of honorable mention, but he was the number 1 edge rusher in that draft. And just looking back at this draft class, it was actually kind of pretty weak. The other guys on there that I had after him were Harold Landry, Marcus Davenport, Sam Hubbard, Arden Key, Josh Sweat, just to name a few. But uh, only one edge rusher out of this whole draft class has ranked inside PFF's top 35 for the season. And that's
hmm
going back the last 2 years. And it was Marcus Davenport, and he ranked number 17, and that was his rookie year. And his second year, he ranked number 37. So that just shows you this whole draft class has kind of been underwhelming. Chubb put up great numbers in college. He led the class in hurry, sacks, and tackles for a loss, as you mentioned a little bit earlier today. But when he got to the combine, he was kind of like an average tester. He was right in the middle in pretty much all the categories right now. I'm looking at it right now, and it looks like his vertical was above average at 36 inches. So that's just the kind of stuff that you look for in these top defensive end guys. You want them to be fast, athletic freaks, and he just didn't check that box for me. And even in my notes, when I look back here at 2018, I had lax explosiveness and quick twitch for a top 10 pick. And, I think that stuff is pretty much true even going back his first couple years in the NFL. But I know the Broncos pretty much pair him in a nice rotation. He gets put on the field like in plus matchups for pass rushing downs. And I think, I did have him as my number one pass rusher with a first-round grade. And I think just looking back on it, we could have predicted the type of player he'd be just with his testing and stuff like that. So he's definitely still the best one out of this draft class, but not as elite as these Myles Garrett and other guys coming out that are picked number one for edge rushers. So, he was my honorable mention. My favorite pick was Cortland Sutton, 2019 second-round pick. He was the wide receiver out of SMU, and I liked Cortland Sutton coming out of the draft. I kept my eye on him. I think the second round was probably the perfect spot for him. It turned into a pretty good value. He was my number 3 wide receiver in this draft, behind guys like Calvin Ridley and Anthony Miller. And I know I put those 2 guys ahead of him mainly because I value separation and quickness that these guys had. They also had like extensive route trees and the ability to play inside and outside. And we know Cortland Sutton, he's a big guy. He's an outside receiver. He seems kind of limited in his route tree compared to those other 2 guys. But, since he's got to the NFL, he's shown the ability to win, especially at the catch point, and he does it consistently, which I think is very hard to do in the NFL. These corners out here, they don't let you catch any easy passes, especially if they're anywhere nearby. So he takes advantage of his size. I think he has a solid career ahead of him for sure, especially if the Broncos work out this quarterback position and find a long-term solution. So I just say watch out if they do get a quarterback in here, because their wide receiver core has been rebuilt, and I think it's going to be one of the better ones in the league moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think they found their quarterback in Drew Lock, hopefully. But like I said, he was actually one of my favorite quarterbacks that year. But yeah, hopefully they found them, man.
Yeah. That's all I have for Denver.
But all right. All right, that takes us to the Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. To touch over their draft classes and whatnot, I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't a big fan of their 2018 draft class, which included Speaks, now the Daniel, Marnie Watts, Tremaine Smith, and Cole McKenzie. I wasn't a big fan of either of them. Wasn't really knowledgeable on either of them, I guess I'd say. 2017, I'm going to be honest, none of us saw, what was going to happen with Patrick Mahomes. We didn't think that he was going to explode into the type of person he is today. I know it took him a little while, especially studying behind Alex Smith and everything. I was a big fan of Kareem Hunt coming out. I liked him out of Toledo. I liked what he had to do. Definitely a speedster and everything. I know he got in some legal trouble, definitely kicking that chick and whatnot. I know that wasn't really smart of him to do. But my favorite came into 2019 class, and that was round 2 pick 633, safety out of Virginia, and that is Juan Thornhill. Juan Thornhill, he played for Virginia, from 2015 2018. I liked him. I liked his versatility a lot. He played safety primarily, but he actually has some, games where he dropped down and played some corner. He actually graduated with his degree in 2018 with a degree in anthropology. Smart kid. Yeah, he's got a good head on his shoulders. I know this year he actually tore his ACL, and hopefully he recovers well. But while his time at Virginia Tech, he totaled 208 tackles, 13 interceptions, and 1.5 sacks. This kid was a stud. He was my favorite. He was my favorite safety that year in 2019. I think. I don't think I really had anybody ahead of him. So yeah, he's my favorite draft choice.
There you go. I got the same guy, Juan Thornhill, and just like you said, we all know the impact that Pat Mahomes has made on this team, but similar to a guy like Lamar Jackson, I just didn't see him coming over and taking over the NFL the way that he has. But Juan Thornhill takes it. I was a fan of him coming out of Virginia. He was my number 3 safety that year. I had a second-round grade on him. The two guys I had above him were Nazir Adderley as free safety, and at strong safety, I had Jonathan Abram, who, I'd probably keep that order right now just because I think Abram is still a pretty damn good strong safety. Nazir Adderley's been playing pretty decent too. So, Juan Thornhill, solid second rounder. At Virginia, he was just a versatile player. Other than safety, he came down, he played some DB, he played some linebacker, and of course, I thought he fit in best at free safety. So at free safety, he was my number 2 safety there. But what I liked about him is he showed a lot of range, which is very important. He got his hands on the ball, his play speed, and he fought for contested catches down the field. So those are all things that you look for in a safety. Maybe add in some downhill tackling or something like that. But for a second-round pick, I think those are perfect attributes to have. Other than that, he just killed it at the combine. I think he was the number 1 spark scored safety that year, and that just showed that he's ready for the NFL. So as a rookie, he came in, he started all 16 games. He racked up 3 interceptions and 5 pass deflections. And like we mentioned in the previous episode, Jamal Adams has only had 2 career interceptions. So he had 3 his rookie year, 5 pass deflections, but unfortunately he got hurt in that week 16 game and he didn't get a chance to play in the Super Bowl. So I know he's hating that. I know he's hungry to get back out there. So I expect him to be back at 100% in 2020 and probably one of the best players on that defense. And I think he's pretty much right where I expected him to be. My number 2 free safety, second-round grade. That's where they took him. And, I'm excited to see what else he has in store.
For sure. You have any honorable mentions at all for
I have one more guy, a guy that's kind of disappointed, but I was high on him. It was 2018's third-round pick, Dorian O'Daniel. He was the linebacker from Clemson. And, I was just higher on him than most people. I thought he fit the mold of that new linebacker that's in the NFL. He was undersized with speed. He produced a lot too. He was on a great team, but he hasn't hit yet in Kansas City, which is kind of disappointing. Looking at his stats here, he only has 1 career start, which definitely isn't good for a third rounder. You want him to at least come in and be contributing on most games, He plays mostly special teams, and this is one of those guys I don't see him making the team probably next year just because of his low utilization. So hopefully he could turn it around on another team and, show his true potential.
Yeah. Well, that takes us now to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yep.
And let's see here. To go over 2017, I'm going to be honest. I like Garyon Conley. I wouldn't have picked him in the first round. I liked Obi Malifonwu. Sorry if I mispronounce your name.
Nope, you got it.
I thought he was gonna be a stud. After following his combine results, kind of being compared to Byron Jones, I thought this kid was definitely gonna shine and whatnot.
Yep.
2018, wasn't a fan of Colton Miller. I understand they had a little spat between the Niners because they wanted McGlinchey, and we kind of took him before then. Arden Key, I know he was kind of a knucklehead, coming out of LSU. Was a big fan of him, but overall, my favorite draft choice for 2018 was actually Maurice Hurst. I know he had some heart issues, and they got him in the 5th, which I think is a steal, but this kid's been a stud for them ever since. But let's see, 2019, I like Clinton Farrell. Wouldn't have picked him at pick 4. Definitely a, solid player, good head on his shoulders, come from Clemson. I know he went to a military school and whatnot, and his parents were actually both military officers and everything. Josh Jacobs, he was my number 1 running back that year. Seeing him play in the national championship game. One of the things that Jason Witten actually said is this kid's going to be the first running back chosen that year, and I believe he was right. This kid's a stud. He's definitely on his way to be one of the best running backs in the league today. Jonathan Abram, I liked him. I like his, tenacity. I like the explosion and whatnot. I know he's kind of a knucklehead as well. Between the whole salmon and Solomon thing and whatnot. I don't know if you saw that on Hard Knocks, but that was actually pretty funny. Trayvon Mullen, I liked him as well. Solid player over there at Clemson. Max Crosby, I liked, started coming on to him very late in the draft, and he's, definitely showing that this kid is actually a stud. Isaiah Johnson, he was a good dude. Converted from receiver, definitely a fixer-upper. They went with Foster Moreau, and they also went with my favorite in the past 3 years. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Big fan of this kid because he didn't look like your, Julio Joneses or A.J. Green, and that was actually wide receiver, 5th round draft choice, pick 149 out of Clemson, and that is the great Hunter Renfrow. I was a big fan of this kid. This kid, definitely was wasn't, like I said, wasn't anything to look at coming in. He was a walk-on over there at Clemson. He came in at 5'10", weighing only 155 pounds, and he took a redshirt year in 2014. In 2015, he actually put on a little bit more muscle mass, and he increased up to about 180. That's when he finally received a scholarship for the Clemson Tigers. He caught 2 passes in 2016 college national playoffs, and he actually caught the game-winning touchdown in 2017 against the Crimson Tide from Deshaun Jackson. In 2018, he won the Bullsworth Trophy Award, which is given to a college player which started his college career as a walk-on. Looking at his stats and whatnot, he never had a year where he had less than 30 receptions. It goes respectively from 2015, 2018, 33, then he had 44, and in 2017 he had 60, 2018 he had 49, so he totaled 186 receptions, 2,133 yards, which averaged about 11.5 yards, and he had 15 touchdowns. Like I said, he doesn't wow you or anything, but this kid was definitely a stud, and he's definitely a reliable 3rd down target for Derek Carr now.
Yeah, definitely. His like you said, his stats weren't really that impressive at Clemson. I even think his last year there, he only had 1 touchdown, but he was number 9 in the ACC in receptions, and his the interesting thing about his combine was he ran a 4.59, which isn't very good. He had his 10-yard split wasn't very good, but similar to Julian Edelman, he ran the best change of direction, so the best 3-cone out of all the wide receivers. So, that just shows the type of role that he plays on the team. He can move in a phone booth and make guys, miss and just create that quick separation. So Hunter Renfrow, I'm looking at it right now. He was my number 17 receiver that year. So what round did they get him in?
Okay. They got him in the 5th.
5th, okay. Yeah, I had a 4th round grade on him, but there was a lot of receivers coming out that year. There's some guys that I probably shouldn't have had above him, but yeah, Hunter Renfrow, he's been pretty solid, especially for his draft pick and where he was. So for me, my favorite draft pick definitely would have been Garyon Conley if he was still on the team. I was pretty high on him in 2017, but I ended up going with the 2018 fifth-round pick, Maurice Hurst, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. So, the new coaching staff came in 2018, and they immediately got a steal with that fifth-round selection. Because Maurice Hurst was flagged with that heart condition, he just kept dropping and dropping. And I remember just seeing on ESPN and NFL during the draft that, he was one of those best players available each round. And looking back on my notes, I have the grade for a round on him at 1-2. So I had him right on the borderline, end of the first round, beginning of the second. So that's why I think that they got such a good steal here. At Michigan, he produced pretty well. He was good against the run and the pass, so that's hard to do from that interior position. He was number 3 in run stops in the draft class and number 11 in sacks. So he was just producing at the two areas where he needed to. So since coming into the NFL, he's been pretty healthy. He's only missed 3 games, starting 29 of 32 games, or playing in. I don't know if he started those games, but his health condition hasn't really came up at all. PFF ranked him as the number 4 defensive tackle the last 8 games of 2019. So, like we just said, he got drafted in the 5th round. He ended up being the number 4 defensive tackle for the last 8 games. That's pretty damn good and a good value. I expect him to come in next year. He has a new defensive line coach, but I expect him to pick up right where he left off, maybe even start pushing his way towards a Pro Bowl appearance if he could keep up with that top 5 status as a defensive tackle.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Brings on to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yep.
Let's see here. Touch base on their 2017 draft. Mike Williams, I liked him a lot. Picked someone a little bit high for me, but yeah, definitely was a big fan of him. I know he faced some injuries starting of his career. He's kind of coming into his own now. I liked Forrest Lamp, the big guy out of Western Kentucky.
Yep.
Definitely, great kid. I'd say out of 2017, my favorite draft choice actually came in round 5, and that was the safety out of Iowa, Desmond King.
Yep.
Kid still is a stud. He could play, safety or go down to nickel
Slot.
or whatnot. Definitely saw slot corner and whatnot. 2019, wasn't a fan of Tillery coming out. The only guys I really liked that they picked were probably round 4, Drew Quell, and the round 2 draft choice, the safety out of Delaware, Nasir Adderley. Pretty sure Adderley was my number 2 safety coming out. Number 1, like we said earlier, was Juan Thornhill. But my 2018 class, that became my favorite actually player that I had in the whole year. I was high on Duran James. That's my guy. I was high on him. I wanted the 49ers to draft him with pick 15 or 14 that year, but they went ahead and got Mike McGlinchey. Duran James lasted all the way to pick 17 for them. This kid was a stud coming out of Florida State. He didn't start right away at Florida State when he entered as a true freshman, but he eventually became a starter. As a freshman, he played 12 games, had 91 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 4 passes defended. He forced 2 fumbles, and he recovered both of those.
Nice.
Coming into his sophomore year, he was ranked the 3rd best second-year player, only behind Josh Rosen and Calvin Ridley. And, those kids had great college football careers as well. I know he underwent knee surgery to repair lateral meniscus tear and cartilage damage and whatnot, which had him miss about 5 to 7 weeks. And about his sophomore year was kind of short-lived, but still had an impact, had 11 goals and an interception in the 2 games that he did play that year. Since been in the league in 2018, he was a Pro Bowl, and he was actually first team All Pro in 2018, where he was also made the All Rookie team. He's two-time first team All ACC team as well from 2016 and 17. But this kid is a stud. He already has 139 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 14 pass defended. Yeah, he was definitely my favorite draft choice for them the past 3 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Mike Williams was also up there, but his where he was taken top 10, I really wasn't a fan of that. But I ended up going with Derwin. He was one of my favorite players in that draft, and just a clear first round pick. I mean, he balled out at Florida State, like you mentioned, and was just a physical freak at the combine. Going back 2018, yeah, he was over a 40-inch vertical, over 11-foot broad jump, and ran a 4.440. So this guy just showed out there, and he was able to line up all over the defense. So that just pushes him up my draft board with each one of those things. He could do it all. On top of that, he was a team captain, and I think eventually will be a team captain on the Chargers if he's not already. I don't think he is, but give him a couple more years, and I think he'll be right up there. His first year in the NFL, he was selected as a first-team All-Pro safety, so that just shows you, even at this young age, he could produce with the top safeties in the league. But in 2019, unfortunately, he only played 5 games, and that was due to injury. He had a foot injury that I think he might have been able to come back from later on in the year, but it just wasn't worth it for the Chargers to push for it. They were having their own issues, and Derwin couldn't save the season himself. So they let him sit out. I think if he's healthy, he can come back and, be definitely a top 3, if not number 1 safety in this league. Of course, we got Jamal Adams out there too. That's we'll be pushing him for that top safety position for years to come. But Derwin James, first round pick, number 17, another guy that kind of fell later than we thought he would, and he was worth the Chargers waiting and sitting and picking him up there. So good addition to their secondary. Another guy from their secondary that I like, he was my honorable mention, was Desmond King. He was picked in 2017. He was a 5th-round pick out of Iowa, and I was just high on him that year. I had a 2nd or 3rd-round grade on him, so he might have, even if we knew what he did now, he might have even been picked a little bit higher than that. But he did everything at Iowa.
He's your defensive player in the fantasy league, right? He's your defensive player?
Yeah, exactly. He is always getting his hands on the ball, getting tackles. He'll blitz off the edge. He's not afraid to tackle. On top of that, he's a punt returner, so he always has the chance to take one back to the house. And I know he was doing kick returns when he first got there, but that got taken over by Austin Eckler, I believe. But yeah, the Chargers brought him in. He instantly became their slot cornerback. Filling in wherever they needed him pretty much. I think he's a baller. I think he's one of those players that just comes in and just makes an impact wherever you need him. And you'd line him up with this secondary. He's going to be next to Derwin, who was my favorite pick in 2018, and then Casey Hayward, and now they added Chris Harris Jr. there. So I think he'll just continue to ball out, play that joker role, and keep contributing to the Chargers defense.
All right. Well, do you have anything else to say before we get on out of here?
Nope. I think that wraps it up for the AFC West.
Wraps it up for the AFC West, and wraps it up for episode 11 here of season 1. Hopefully we have more seasons to come. Like I said, beginning of the podcast, please hit that like, hit that subscribe button, leave any kind of comments you would like, possibly topics that you would like us to touch on and whatnot. So we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, keep staying tuned. We're going to cover the rest of the teams, maybe your favorite team, but keep looking out for us. We'll be back.
See ya.
Peace.